my name is Jorge from Gold Coast on Queensland. I'm going to talk with a little experience we have here on Iran. It's a small suburb close to maybe 25 minutes away from the beach. And it's another 25 minutes to rainforest, to Springbrook, Lamington Park. We have an edible cake garden or edible garden on parkland. And this year, with the pandemic year or that difficult, we have able to harvest and donate 30 times. And that is about 1,000 kilos of fresh food. We don't keep detailed record of what we do, just we know approximate volume, 3,500 liters maybe, But the more important part of that, is a public edible landscape. Is born a concept of a food forest garden, 3 years ago, have been developed as the edible landscape garden, and now we use a bio-intensive grow method to grow that quantity of food. It's producing urban food and small size. It's a zero budget project. We don't use machine. We don't know, no use a prefabricated component to do, for example, a rising garden bed. And it's an agroecologic bio-intensive growth method, as we said before. It's a public edible landscape, and it's happening in a public parkland, so it's an unfenced project. This year, we started a new volunteer training program we call Edible Garden Promoter. It's free for participants, and it's unfinanced. We cannot grant any kind of money to run the community education program. It's a program with learning by doing on edible gardening activity, grow and harvesting food by the people who participate and who donate to the local neighborhood center food bank. And people with a problem of food insecurity, so people who cannot afford to buy all that food from the shopping center, from the shopping, they are able to get a discount price of food. That is a socio-solidarity relationship, and we are able to provide maybe the only fresh and healthy food that people get in that food bank box. So that is an exchange of time and knowledge by the people who are under employment, and they do that communal social food that benefit the neighbor on the food crisis. And for the participant, that means it's a return of dignity, life purpose, social cohesion, and sense of belong to underemployment participant. It's a fair and solidarity relationship. The social solidarity is part of the bigger local circular loop. That means we are able to collect food scrap from the community to transform the organic matter into a biofertilizer and soil amends product to sustain edible garden. In a way, we are able to generate more soil all the time, soil to grow more food. Now, that project is a reverse engineer on social solidarity and urban agroecology and edible garden promoter. That is a knowledge or is an observation or experience from the global south organic foods cultivation practice. In other words, no, what we do or what I do is to see how a food is grow organico on country or Latin America, because I am Spanish background speaking in my country, Chile, in Latin America. So my observation is how organic food is produced by a small farmer, campesino, people who direct with their own hand and working the distribute local food. So it's a direct relationship of produced food and the community they serve. It is a solidarity economic or a solidarity enterprise, which use the C factor as the principal component to able to grow as a solidarity enterprise. No, that means it's the community, it's the communion in between people who participate, it's the cooperation, it's the collaboration of people who have that experience to put a concept together to create a group shared solution. No? The agroecologist in that sense, no, is a science and practice and social movement, and tenor is a connection, is a relationship between a tradition grower, indigenous people, family farmer, and people coming from university to share and to understand new technology and new application of that practice. But it's driving by the social move, from the campesino to campesino, or a small farmer to small farmer. That's use of practicing that allow redesign, diversify, productive and resilient agroecosystem. Transform the food system. It's a ethics, it's a social relation of mutuality and respect, commitment to more equality, change, and land steward. Edible garden or a project is a grow fruiting tree, and the moment are small, so it's supling, and grow biointensive garden around that tree. We have living green roots, crucify a diversity of food around the tree who are growing. Maybe they are productive in 5 years or so. No? But yeah, the vegetable garden use a zero and low cost material, as you can see on the picture on the left. Cultivate on large scale. So the garden is not in a flat soil, is on a small hill of 12-degree slope. And to create the garden bed, we made a couple microcatchment to harvest water and to retain water to a slow release, after a good raining. The canopy tree shade prevent evapotranspiration, so the plant need minimal water. So we reduce the necessity to use town water. About the wetting, we have used compost, but as well at the moment we use a ferment food wetting system. Is where we can apply the crop scrap from the garden, the collection of fruit juice bar in the local farmer market, and kitchen food wet bring by the neighbor. We transform That's a food waste for a solid liquid fertilizer, and then go to feed the soil microbe. That enable intensive sequential weekly crop harvesting year round. The social connection happening in the garden elevates from the edible landscape to agroecology demonstrative site. As a zero-budget garden can be viewed by low-income families. So as a demonstration garden, people who experience the garden by visiting can be motivated to replicate that kind of gardening without extra cost for the family. These encourage grow food agroecological, the experiential process witness the social benefit of advancing urban agriculture. The crop yields. We say when we start now, we have harvested 30 times this year, about 1,000 kilos of food, and that can be translated into 33 kilos per harvest. That is a 9 kilos per square meter. No, that is a cultivated garden around, our garden is about 300 square meters at the moment, where we have 33 kilos per week or for harvest. And that is about 9 kilos per square meter at the moment. No, the potential of the garden, we have a license to use 1,000 square meter. So we have a potential to produce 5,000 kilos of organic food, maybe at the end of next year, because we may by hand one garden bed on the time. As we said before, we don't incorporate any machine and we don't bring anything external. We don't buy manure, we don't buy anything from outside of the site. We produce everything on the site. So all the soil need, we create the condition to make that soil on the garden.
Jorge, just to leave you all 5 minutes or a little bit more to have a question or two, are you happy to sort of wrap up in sort of next 30 seconds?
It's a true slide.
Okay,
so,
great.
So the garden has the potential to feed 55 persons. Healthy nutrient food for 20,000 people, vulnerable people in the city. We will need 350 of that kind of edible garden. The city has 2,000 parks, so to asking for 350 edible garden is not much to asking. No, the potential of 350 edible garden create occupation for 700 people, underemployment people at the moment, to become a public social urban food grower. So the urban food insecurity is a societal crisis, should treat with the severity of the pandemic crisis. It's a public social food growth should receive income benefits no less of the level of the initial Just Keeper program at the minimum. That's my end.